On September 5th, 1919, 50 miles north of Washington, 3 items were recovered from a crashed Model T, a journal describing a supernatural entity, a mysterious silver tin from Norway, and the body of a man who hadn't slept in weeks. 5 months earlier, Augustus Bell picked up his brother, Eugene Bell, up from the Port of Vancouver, unaware that in Eugene's time away, an evil presence had latched onto him, one which contorted his dreams and fed off his nightmares. As the force grew stronger, Eugene became more fragile, and soon Augustus also found himself in his own living nightmare. This is Augustus's account, retold from the journal which was discovered in his car as he attempted to leave the city. My brother Eugene was a busy man. He chose the path of science and reason over having a family. He made this choice for the right reasons, as he knew that he simply could not commit enough time to a family, not when there were unknowns to solve and diseases to cure. On the surface, Eugene and I were polar opposites. As a musician, I had a creative mind, unlike his logical and pragmatic one, but regardless of this, we weren't just brothers, but the best of friends. I would have done anything for Eugene, but I never expected to be in this position because of him. One where evil had latched onto me and was draining my hopes and dreams until only an empty shell remained. It began one murky day in April. Eugene had been carrying out research overseas for the past few weeks, and I was on my way to the port to meet him. As soon as I saw him shuffling toward my car, my excitement faded. He was barely recognizable with his sallow and tinged gray skin, heavy, bloodshot eyes, and his withered frame hidden beneath his now loose-fitting, beloved tweed jacket. I hugged him and I made a joke about his appearance, but he remained rigid. He gave a brief nod and then he just walked over to my car. Now, on the drive back to his apartment, we didn't even speak much. There was this tension in the air, one that I don't recall there ever being between us ever before. He was clutching the silver tin. Its lid was sealed with yellow wax, and whatever it was, it seemed very important to him as he didn't loosen his grip on it, not once. I asked him what was in the tin, and he tensed up and he mumbled, "Oh, just don't touch it, Gus. Promise me, and just regardless of what happens, you'll just never touch it." I nodded at him, feeling unnerved. I dropped my brother off at his apartment and I watched him scurry off beyond the grayness of the day. I tried telling myself that he was just tired from his very long trip and that in a few days he would be back to normal, but I couldn't shake the fear that it was something more than that he had caught in an infection or was plagued with some sickness of the mind. That evening, I was playing the piano at an upmarket seafood restaurant which provided distraction from my worrying about Eugene. It was the following day, though, that I picked up some groceries from the store and I took them around to his apartment. I must have knocked on that door at least 10 times, but he still didn't answer. I checked under his doormat, not surprised to find the spare key was still there. My brother, he was intelligent, but he was also quite forgetful. I let myself in, calling his name as I walked into the dark hallway. There was this coldness to the room, one that I couldn't explain. I walked into the living room and kitchen, noticing how the usually pristine worktops and tables were now crammed with dirty plates and smashed cups with smudges of red on them. I knocked on the bedroom door and I called Eugene's name as I slowly pushed it open. Now, at first, I thought my eyes were deceiving me, that what I was seeing simply could not be. My brother was lying on top of the bed, his arms and legs stretched out as his entire body shook and convulsed. Sitting on his stomach was an old woman with scraggly gray hair, her appearance almost skeletal. She had her hands pressed to his chest and her head lolled back in concentration. I froze there, trying to make sense of something that I could not. Then I charged toward her, screaming at her to be gone as I flailed my arms about. She looked at me with these glowing red eyes and her bony mouth moving as if she was laughing, but I only heard silence. As I reached out to push her off my brother, all I grabbed was air. She had disappeared. I stood there with my heart dancing and a lump of dreaded disbelief lodged in my throat. When the initial shock faded, I leaned over my brother, noticing his closed eyes and his gaunt complexion. I shook him, begging him to wake up. Minutes passed, and I thought he had gone. I wept into his arms, distraught that that thing had claimed my brother. When I felt him stir within my grasp, I thought I must be going crazy. I pulled back and I saw him looking, a look filled with both relief, but also despair. He pulled away from me, falling off the bed and scurrying into the corner of his bedroom. He curled up into a ball, and with this shaky voice, he said, You can't be real. She's pretending to be you. I told him that it was me, but he refused to believe me. Seeing how distressed he was upsetting. I tried to think of some way to make him trust me, so thinking hard, I told him something only I would know. Eugene, I promise you, it's really me. It's Gus. How else would I know that for your 9th birthday, you were certain you would get that pop gun with a blue handle? You know, the one in the window at McClary's toy store. Only you ended up with a bag of red and blue marbles. Remember? And he replied, yes, I do. And then I threw them in the lake in disappointment. He crackled a laugh out. Gus, it really is you, isn't it? It's not another of her tricks. It's really me. I nodded back at him. He seemed to calm down, at least enough for me to help him into the living room. I used the groceries I bought him to make him something to eat. He glugged down 2 mugs of black coffee before he agreed to talk to me about what was happening. He told me that his case overseas had led him to a cabin in Norway where a boy, Frederick, was plagued with an unexplainable sickness that happened as he slept. He would wake up covered in cuts and bruises as though he had been battling someone in his sleep. The translation was difficult, but he drew pictures of himself in bed, a shadowy figure with wiry hair leaning over him. As his health swiftly deteriorated, eager to find a way to help, Eugene insisted on monitoring him while he slept. But as night went on, Eugene himself fell asleep. He awoke in the early hours of the morning and witnessed an old woman in rags hovering over the boy, stroking his face with bony fingers. As he rushed toward her, she vanished, but the boy didn't wake up, his face contorted in fear. As he left the family's home, the boy's grandmother handed him a silver tin and said different words he didn't understand before saying 2 he did. Night Hag. That night, Eugene's night horrors began. At first, he would wake up sweating and swear he saw that old woman in the corner of his eye. Then, as the days went on, it just got worse. The old woman would appear in his dreams, torturing him and tormenting him in them, carrying out the most despicable of things. He would wake up to find scratch marks and bruises on his body, ones he could not explain. He drank coffee, self-medicated himself to try and stay awake, and even resorted to cutting himself with glass so the pain would keep him awake. But it didn't work. Sleep would always claim him, and in doing so, so would she. One day, I won't wake up just like Frederick, he told me, the fear alive in his eyes. You need to leave this place and never come back. I don't want it latching onto you next. I refused to leave, and I told Eugene we'd work this out and it would be okay. Words I didn't fully believe. I was tidying up his apartment when I found a book on folklore and superstition. I was about to open it at the folded corner when I heard a rustling behind me. Turning around, I saw Eugene standing there, his bloodshot eyes frantic as he held an unlit oil lamp behind his head like a weapon. Before I could plead with him to stop, he charged toward me and started hitting me with the oil lamp. I covered my head with my hands and accepted the pain. I didn't want to hurt my brother when I knew he was not himself. All I could do was plead with him to stop. And when he finally regained a sense of reality and stopped, he sobbed at what he had done. He cowered there, whimpering, telling me that she made him think that I was a monster. I comforted him the best I could, even though I was in pain from his attack. I wanted to help him, I just didn't know how. I couldn't say he was going mad anymore, as if he was, then so was I. I had seen the night hag with my own eyes. I stayed on Eugene's couch and I drank coffee with him, and we spoke about happy memories to try and ease his fear, but I could see that fear in his fatigued eyes. Despite the coffee, I felt my eyelids drooping. Eugene told me it's okay and to get some rest. I let my tiredness get the better of me. When I woke up, it was daylight and Eugene was dead. I saw him there, collapsed in the middle of the floor, a piece of glass embedded in his hand and his lifeless face twisted in fear. His cheeks were sunken and his body little more than jutting bones beneath a layer of skin. It looked as though someone or something had drained the life out of him. I didn't know what to do. What could I do? I called the police, but I didn't wait around for them to show up and question me. How could I have explained what happened to them without them committing me to an asylum? I ripped the folded page out of the book I'd seen and walked toward the door, the silver tin next to it. Retracing the route, it must have rolled out of Eugene's hand and across the floor. I didn't know what it was, and despite recalling Eugene's earlier warning not to touch it, all I knew was that if I didn't take it with me now, the police would get a hold of it. I picked it up and I left my brother's apartment for the last time. I went home and I lay there in the darkness. The grief was all-consuming and I let it in. I'm not sure when my nightmares stopped and Night Hag's nightmares began, but grief, it has a way of making reality hazy. The first time I knew something was seriously wrong with me was when I woke up to the sound of silent laughter. I don't know how to explain how it came to be that I heard something silent. Maybe I felt it. I tried opening my eyes and moving my body, but I couldn't move. I felt awake, but asleep at the same time. When I was finally able to move, I ran into the bathroom and I drenched my face in water. On looking in the mirror at my gaunt reflection, I glimpsed her in the mirror image of my own eye, an old woman with wiry gray hair and glowing red eyes. I spun around with such ferocity I knocked my toothbrush and soap dish over. No one was there. I told myself it was the grief, and I went back to sleep. Dreams that soon became tormented by the night hag. She would always be there, in the corner of my dream worlds, lurking there, waiting. I lost weight, my hair fell out in clumps from the stress, and my skin turned a grayish color. I looked as ill as I felt, but still, in sleep, the night hag found me. Night after night, she plagued my dreams. And I couldn't work anymore. She had seen to that. She had appeared in the restaurant as I was playing and attacked me. I screamed and I pounded my fist onto the keys. Reality hit. The night hag wasn't there, but all eyes were on me. Hushed silence. A void of despair. I tried drinking coffee to stay awake, but it didn't work. My tiredness was too much for that. I filled the tub with the coldest water possible, adding pieces of ice from the icebox to keep me awake. When the cold became too much to bear, I pulled myself out of the tub, and there, on the bathroom floor, she filled my dreams. When I woke up, I was unable to move, and there, sitting in the tub with swirling marbles of blood for eyes, was Eugene. He smiled at me, a twisted smile, and slowly splashed his way toward me. I couldn't move, I couldn't scream. My eyes were open, but I told myself this wasn't real. This was a bad dream. As his hands reached for my neck, I gasped for breath that wouldn't come. I thought this was it. I was going to die at the hands of my own brother. I regained movement in my body and I pushed him off me, only he changed into something else, an old woman in rags. The silent laughter filled my head, and then I was alone in the room. I forced myself up and I looked in the mirror, and there were finger marks around my neck. I felt tingling in my fingers, and I looked at them before I placed my hands there, around my neck. It was a perfect fit. I had tried to strangle myself. The night hag had made me do it. I knew I couldn't carry on like this. I needed to end this curse. And remembering the silver tin, I inspected it. The lid sealed in place with yellow wax. I found a knife and I was about to chip away at it when I remembered something else. The folded page in my jacket pocket. For some reason, I can't explain, I had a feeling that I should leave the silver tin alone and find the torn page. On it was a picture of an old woman, skeletal with rags for clothes. The night hag is a malevolent entity associated with nightmares. She is known to visit her victims during sleep, where she manipulates their minds and terrorizes them, feeding off their despair. The word night hag was underlined, and there was something scrawled in the margin, an address in Washington. I can do it. I can drive to Washington and stop this. I want to sleep again, to be free. I want to be able to distinguish between real and phantom, and I don't want anyone else subjected to the same fate. I wrote down this account so that, should the worst happen, my words will be known, that the warning now is out there, and people must be vigilant about the unknown. I grabbed the silver tin and I left my apartment. And now I must drive into the darkness and see where it takes me. I must end this nightmare. On September 5th, 1919, Augustus Bell's Ford Model T was discovered crashed in a field 50 miles north of Washington. It is presumed that he lost control of his vehicle. Next to his body, the police officer who was first to the scene retrieved a journal and a silver tin with the remains of yellow wax on it, but no lid. The police report stated that Augustus Bell died due to a combination of the treacherous unpaved roads and the probability that he fell asleep at the wheel. They attributed this to sleep deprivation caused by the grief of losing his brother. Reality and dreams are often one of the same. They are linked by the depths of our subconscious minds. One cannot work without the other. During sleep, we are at our most vulnerable state. During sleep, it is far easier for malevolent beings to find their way in and torment us from dream to reality, just as they did to both Eugene and Augustus Bell. For more scary horror stories, please subscribe.